Hi, listener. This is From Ideology to Unity, a spiritual journey where we let go of ego and ideological doctrine in favor of meaning, purpose, and unity as a whole. Today, I'm interviewing Yoshi Pantera, and he's from the Regenerative Culture podcast, a podcast focusing on permaculture, self-sufficient, bottom-up organization called Sociocracy, sustainability, and spiritual awakening. He's also passionate about applying his principles to a broad array of things, including cooking and well, plenty of other things. So, hi, how are you
Mhm.
doing?
Hello there. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah. So, you don't mind me calling you by your Facebook name, do you?
Of course not.
All right.
Yeah,
But just
thank
to
you.
clarify, what else do you go by?
I've had a lot of names during my life, uh, different like Muerte, uh, Shushu, and stuff like that.
Cool.
Depends on my times of life and whom I'm surrounded with.
Do you think like we've been really attached to names, like for the last 72,000 years or something, right? And maybe in this new age of Aquarius after the ascension, or as we proceed through the ascension, maybe names are going to be more fluid. What do you think?
Definitely, I think the name is a word that represents each self that helps identify and also reflect in oneself. So, in different times of my life or in different people I've met, also names kind of change a little according to what's going around in our lives. So, and they're important to have a. It's important, especially for me, to memorize the names of the people I meet is as a respect towards the person that I meet. So
Hmm.
it's I used to forget people's name immediately, and it's kind of like very careless in a way. But when I meet somebody, I really do a great effort to memorize someone's name and respect that person for the name they have and appreciate that I met them. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, since we last talked, what's been going on in your life? Do you have any interesting updates?
Yeah, I'm very excited about our project. It's called Flora Plant-Based Cuisine here in Orlando, Florida. There's a lot of demand for eating healthy and really exploring more the plant-based food and there's not much going on around. Like there's very few vegan restaurants, and we're kind of like the first vegan food trucks coming out. There's a very few here in Orlando, like I counted like six so far, and we just got a space in Winter Park, which is a really good neighborhood. And this space here is the opportunity to create a vegan plaza, like
Oh,
a vegan plaza of food trucks, a vegan food trucks,
cool.
of course. So we're excited about that because just the space is important, and this space is gonna give us a lot of opportunity as well as expanding the awareness of eating healthy and that.
So, what exactly do you mean by food trucks? In case people don't know,
It's a mobile kitchen, and
right?
so we can move around, but we don't want like to move around as much, but definitely like to have that flexibility of just going other places, visit other crowds and so on, as well as just having a restaurant is just too big of a responsibility. We used to have one in Ecuador, and I used to work in so many for 20 years or something. But just the food truck is feels like just being free. It's just have a lot of freedom of if you want to close. If you want to move around, and it just feels good being part of a food truck. Yeah.
So, do you plan on building a network of people who are involved in this project? Like, how is it just a regular business, or is it
Yeah,
applying your principles?
definitely good question. We like to we envision the network of vegan movement already exists. There's a lot of passionate people around the vegan movement, not only in restaurants but promoters, influencers. There's great doctors that have, you know, like go around to festivals and do great speeches about health. But what we want to do specifically is change what the food industry is. There's a lot of exploitation around the world, and it comes really from the businesses that we have also. So capitalism means in what is today is consumption. The more we consume, the more businesses grow, and the more we consume, there's more exploitation of the resources of nature around the world. So there's not a circle cycle of life here in the consumption world. There's a consumption, and then there is exploitation, contamination, really a degenerative type of culture. So what we want to do, and we're doing, we actually just connected with a few people recently and just have some meetings about how to stop buying from the industrial system of foods and buy locally to local farms. It doesn't have to be a farm. A lot of people are growing food in their backyard, and we want to change that system of the food industry to make it self-sufficient in a way that we can get our products from our local farmers or neighborhoods that are planting food, and then take the waste from that and put it back to the soil and fertilize the soil so it can go back to growing food again. So basically, that's a cycle where we can prove to be self-sufficient as well as not creating waste. Like, we minimize our waste as much as possible. 90% of our waste is compostable, and then the rest is are just really just plastic packages that we clean them and really compact them, and there's many things we can do with it, from bottles of plastic brick. I mean, making bricks out of plastic bottles, compacting them with clean plastic, and just we've done that, and that's pretty much it. Like, we have to find ways how to not create waste, how to not contaminate. And so Flora plant-based cuisine as a food truck will be an example, as well as our vegan food truck plaza. We're going to have a compostable system where we can also plant our food and just be an example of self-sufficient business and regenerative business. That's what we want to call it. So there you go.
Well, I mean, I have to say, I really respect what you're doing. Like, and that term, regenerative business, that resonates to me. And
Mhm.
you're leading by example. You're not like denigrating people for
Yes,
their lifestyle. You're proving through action there's another way. We
exactly.
don't need to rely on corporations so much or the state so much. Like, we don't need to be powerless in the face of heartless structures. We can do things ourselves, working together. And I feel like that's very much in the spirit of this the ascension and what we're moving into. Like, you can call it 5D, you can call it the fourth density, whatever you call it. Like, you could call it the age of Aquarius, but it's not it's not so hierarchical, and it's, yeah, we can work together for something new. And honestly, you said that there's problems with how capitalism is at the moment, and I would agree, but I did get the impression that it's not particularly, you're not taking a firm, like, you're not like being divisive politically. That's my impression, and I like that.
Yes, my view of the world is the possibility of every neighborhood, every sector or region could be self-sufficient in a way that it's self-governed, and basically the current political system will be obsolete. Like
Right.
we don't need big leaders trying to control the world, and it doesn't have to be a president. It can be corporations that are all alliance with each other, like corporations, governance, president, political dictatorship. They're all in a way they can do good stuff. They can do good for the people, but it's not it's not resilient when it's so big. So the smaller we are as a self-governed community, the more self-sufficient we can be, the more resilient we are for the world. Because have you heard the term? It's kind of went around that the the smaller solutions have greater impact in the world. So
Yeah, I think so.
the situation here is that the governance controls our water system, our food system with corporations, our health system, our education. And all this is power, our own power. This power has been taken from us,
Or we give it away, which is
or
worse,
we
right?
gave it away. We give it
And this
away.
dependency, it's not even efficient, is it?
It's not, no.
So yeah, like,
So
what do
we're,
you think? Some might say that you need trade, like, for there to be. Suppose you haven't got enough of a certain resource, and another area might have that resource. That if you can trade, you can access it. Whereas if you do everything, if you try to do everything yourself, you might not be able to. It might not be so effective, or might be more expensive to get a certain thing. What do you think? What do you say about that?
yes, it's a good question and view, because, of course, as a community, for example, a community of, let's say, 20 homes, like a neighborhood, we can be self-sufficient as much as possible. But of course, maybe we can't grow rice or we can't make clothes. But our neighbor community, or maybe a little further, can. So we can do trades, or we can even create our own economy with our own money, or crypto money as we want it to be.
Right. So it's natural. That's the thing, right? It's not like
And
it's
there's no intermediate man or woman. There's no.
yeah. It all starts from the people, right? And whatever system it is in place, like it can be made redundant if the or perhaps even overthrown like peacefully, perhaps, just if people just don't do things differently. I would say that all tyrannical regimes or any system that has been flawed fundamentally relies on the participation of people. And if how people interact changes, then that transforms everything. Do you agree?
Correct. It's basically I go where the word culture is a culture. It's a way we communicate with each other. We act with each other, or we interchange or do business with each other. So all within the culture, and even our clothing. Our clothing is so important to realize where our clothes come from, how it's produced, what impact does it have to the world. Our food, our toothpaste, our toothbrush, all these things are our daily usage has to be revalued, and we need to take action because of that.
Right. Yeah. So do you think as people open their hearts more with this awakening that people will naturally start doing things the way with like permaculture and sociocracy like
Definitely,
more?
it takes time. It takes time. However, I personally find that we can accelerate the process by not only giving an example, but also creating spaces where people can interact and just learn quicker. So if we create a space big enough, as a, let's say a neighborhood that can grow their own food and really be an example, other neighborhoods are going to see that and are going to want to do that really quick too. So that's the vision that I got, is like, how can we create just spaces, a little bigger spaces where we can just prove that it's possible to have this type of culture.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And do you think that that kind of space might generate more of an energy of um I'm not sure what sort of energy. I mean like or a field of like I guess loving cooperation as opposed to fearful dependence.
Yes, yes. The feeling of love is the first energy form that helps us take action. And it happened to me when I felt really love for the first time. Didn't only cry, but I understood. I understood our reason of existence is to feel that love, expand that love, and that involves everything around us. Do we love ourselves? So then we must love the planet. If we love each other, then we need to understand the love with nature, the animals, and
Yeah.
and and stop acting against that. And that involves killing animals, killing nature.
Okay. So a lot of people they're very used to eating meat. And what if they don't feel ready to make the jump towards being vegan or immediately stopping eating meat altogether? What how would you communicate your preferred way of doing things to them?
Basically, it's a mindset in education. So the mindset again goes around our culture, as well as understanding to feel the energy, the vibration of our interaction with food. Basically, even eating cooked food is kind of eating dead plants. So it's important to, I'm not saying don't eat cooked food, I'm saying there needs to be a balance of, okay, you can cook the rice, of course, because you can't eat it otherwise, or the beans or whatnot, but we need at least 50% of our plate live food, like live veggies, like even like broccoli can be cooked halfway just for a minute, and so it turns to a really green glowing color, and that's full of nutrients. And also any type of leaves or even seeds. Seeds are very nutritious, or sprouts are very nutritious. And what happens there is I'm eating energy of life, life energy, as opposed to death, uh, energy that creates fear and power over, and then you eat this death. It's just understanding what does this mean in terms of energy. Now in education, in terms of the food, what does it really do to our bodies? The number one cause of death in the planet is heart disease, and diabetes, cancer go right after. And what causes this is our eating habits, is our lifestyle. We need to do exercise. We need to really help our body communicate with itself by really just stretching. Our system, our blood system needs to really go all the way to the point of our fingers, and just circulate more actively, like running, like really getting our heartbeat and accelerate our heartbeat, really expands our energy around our body, and gives us that health that we need. Like, we're not separated of our body. Our body is part of our brain is our body, our heart is another form of thinking, scientifically proven. So we need to really understand the education of our body, and really understand also the question, why do we exist? And from there, we start taking action in our daily lives to really move forward and evolve. Like, we can choose how we want to evolve. Do we want to degenerate our existence and just kill ourselves? Because that's what's happening. We're killing ourselves. We're just literally walking through the wall, hitting our heads to the wall, and just keep hitting our head to the wall without
Yeah.
realizing what we're doing and questioning everything. So there you go.
Yeah. What I really like about just the vibe I get off you and what you're talking about is that it all comes from love, right? So, and your communication it is evocative of that as well. So, all your solutions, it's all love in action. It's not like, you know, telling people they're bad for doing it a different way or anything like that. You get it, right? And
Hmm.
it's not even like, I suppose, depending on how much you open your heart, it just becomes natural to just communicate things in a respectful, loving way. And education is, I guess, education could be transformed through that approach as well, right?
Hmm. Yes, we need to observe what education is happening right now, and pretty much this type of education feeds the capital consumption system, and we become basically slaves of the system. There's no education to thrive really, unless you really push it and really do your own research and go out of the regular system. But basically, education is key in our lives, and the parents. Education really comes from home too. So for kids right now that are studying from the computer because of COVID, a lot of kids are studying supposedly from the computer. It's not education for kids. Like, I have a few nephews, and you go check them out to see if they're on in school. They're watching videos. They have a screen over here for school and another screen for videos, another screen for gaming. So it's kind of like they can multitask, but that's not education.
Yeah.
So
Although, was it really education before? With the
exactly.
schools, right? A lot of the discipline, especially if you go back to the 19th century, it was all based on fear, like caning and things like that. Like, and even if you get to modern day schooling, like in the classroom, like a lot of it's still done through fear, like through a punishment system. And it's just like, there's a better way, isn't there?
Yes, it is not far ago. For example, I came from a school where we get hit. Like, they literally hit us. They will grab a type of ruler stick. And they will hit us on the head, or they will grab our hands and they hit us on the hand when we don't listen or we don't pay attention. Or when I used to have hair, they'll grab our part of their hair right here and just pull it up. And I'm 38 years old. This isn't in the 90s, and we're not far from what it used to be that we would get hit in school. I'm from Ecuador, but here I suppose that stopped a long time ago. But it's still within fear. It's still within control. It's still with authority, and there's other ways now, other mythologies that are amazing. Like what's the word here? I forgot the word right now.
Well, describe what you're talking about.
So it's just instead of being in school with a teacher in front of you,
Homeschooling.
and there's homeschooling, but there's also other methodologies that you, instead of like having the teacher in front of you, you have circles, and you have kids interact with you and what they are attracted to. Like if they're more on the artistic side, or if they're more on the number side, you don't impose them to learn everything. You just kind of like raise the vibe of what they're already
Right.
like.
Is it
And
Montessori or something?
Montessori is one of them. Yeah, there's another one I was thinking, but that type of methodology we're talking about, as well as being with nature, and kids are planting, food and little different plants and flowers, and understanding nature more, and really interact more outside than just sitting in a classroom and being in control of what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways of teaching that, or learning, I would say, that are very effective that we're not even taught. Like something I discovered recently was the Feynman method for learning,
Okay.
Feynman,
Okay.
two N's at the end. And it's basically Richard Feynman developed this method of learning where you explain it to someone, or you just explain it like to no one, like explain it out loud or write everything down, like to a 5-year-old. And if you keep doing that, you need to really, you can't just use like a fancy term. You need to really explain everything in terms of the real nitty gritty of it, right?
Hmm.
And like that's an example of like really getting to the nuts and bolts of something, but like really getting to know something. If you combine that with like a more loving approach, perhaps,
Exactly.
yeah, there's so much like what's more harmonious. And we're not told these things because I guess it didn't really fit the fear-based agenda. But now things are changing, right? This
Hmm.
is an opportunity, a prime opportunity for us to change the way we do everything according to perhaps the sort of principles of sociocracy and permaculture. And even though we discussed it in the last time I interviewed you, let's could you outline what they're about, those two principles, and
Hmm.
how they could lead us towards a 5D way of doing things?
Hmm. Yeah, so permaculture is the design of systems that regenerate life. It's a way where we can incorporate nature and human settlement. So, observing ancient wisdom of doing things, take that and we modernize it in a way that a few traditions that were not working or is not working right now, but we take how we design a system in nature. So, as well as observing our forests and jungle. So, we design with permaculture a space that's self sufficient, that doesn't need human intervenence. Where, of course, at the beginning, we design it, and then it's, you get to the point where it's self sufficient, and all elements from the design help each other thrive, and we're not separated from that. So from every little mosquito bug that we supposed to call the plaga, like
Yeah,
we, or or there's plants that are very invasive and they take over. It's because there's not a healthy ecosystem.
yeah, makes sense.
So we need to incorporate and understand these plants and animals or bugs in a way that there's abundance for everyone, there's harmony in the system, and then we include the human settlement too, in a way that we're not invading, we're not contaminating, we're not wasting, we're not destroying the system that we're creating. So that's what permaculture is. Now, sociocracy is a system of tools where it helps our community make decisions without hierarchy, where we can all make the decision together, where we can all become that leader and not have an authority that we have to listen all the time or follow the directions all the time. Is we all take them and make the decision, and it's amazing. And I want to add another thing here is economy is with a social coin economy, or bartering or interchange, and just understand other ways of economy. And these three things only, of course there's more, but there's these three things help a community or a human settlement be abundant within nature. So it's important to take a look at that, observe what's possible in terms of learning this, and it takes time to separate from our current life what's happening right now, and then start studying this and implement it. So I remember when I was younger, about even 10, 15 years ago, I learned about what permaculture is, and I was fascinated. And it took me time to start learning. It took me about 2 years to stop doing what I was doing. I was working a lot. I was in debt. I was just had another lifestyle, and I had to really do a lot of effort to stop living the way I was living, to then start studying. And so it took me about 2 years to just stop everything I was doing and then start studying and then start implementing it in my life. So it's just the focus that we need to really take action.
Okay, thank you. Could you outline in more detail how a community would practice sociocracy in practice, like how it would work?
Yeah. So, for example, we have 10 people, right? And we're in a circle, and we start having an agenda of what the meeting is about. And during this process of going through each topic of the agenda, we maybe need to take a decision on something. So we ask everyone one by one, what do you think? First, it's a first round of a comment. Any comments first? Then it's the question: do you agree with it? Yes or no? That's it. No other comment. So it's a process of how to have an efficient meeting, and in a fast way too, because meetings can take so long. So the first, like I mentioned, round is comments. The second round is, do you agree or not? So yes or no. And then the next round is, if you don't agree, what's your proposal instead? So and that's the second round. And then the last round is, okay, does everyone agree? And then we consent and say, okay, yep, we agree. And so then we move to the next topic. And before we even start the meeting, I need to mention that there's a facilitator, guardian of time, and someone that takes notes, like a secretary. So there's three people that lead the meeting, but they're not the same people all the time. So next meeting could be a different three people. So that's just a
How is that
meeting.
determined as to who takes which role?
Depends the group. Some are voluntarily, and others have a structure. I'm in different meetings, so I'm part of a Casa Latina, which is a network of eco-villages in South America, which is part of Global Eco-Village Network. And the whole system of eco-villages practice sociocracy. So here it's voluntarily. Now, in my personal projects, we practice sociocracy, and we have a system where we just have a list and we go by the list, and we all agree on doing that. So each circle makes their own decisions, is independent, and they have a little bit of different practices, but there's a structure that we all follow that can help us through the process of making decisions. Now, let's say in the global eco-village network, there's so many circles, right? And they're independent. And then to communicate all these circles together, we choose a leader and representative. Each circle has two people that represent the circle, a leader and a representative. So one person communicates to the center circle of all the circles, and the other person brings the information back to the smaller circles. You see what I'm saying? So it's
Yeah.
not just one person representing the circle, it's two in a way that one person brings information and the other person brings back the other information. So there's
Okay.
no lies or beneficial things going on. It's
Okay.
just
So the information goes inward and outward. The one does it in, one goes out. And through the interaction of all these groups, it creates
exactly.
a natural larger system. It's like permaculture with people.
Yes.
Okay. How, how do you avoid the problem? Suppose someone who's got a character like Stalin, or like someone who's got like a really manipulative personality, who's like power hungry,
Yes. Good
playing the
question.
system. How do you prevent or deal with that prospect?
Good question. There's actually, before we even practice sociocracy, we need to go through a course, and then we go through practicing sociocracy with different groups that have experience. Inside this course, it could be that they offer another course that's called nonviolent communication course and mindfulness. So specifically those words. And when you go through this course, we learn how to use and not use certain words. For example, using the word I. For example, let me see here. I just haven't used it so long I can't remember. But the thing is that there's a type of communication that we don't realize that it has this ego,
Oh,
and 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 that power over others. And maybe I don't agree with something, and I just disrespectfully cut the meeting, and I don't agree, and all this. It's just a habit and behavior that we have to reprogram in our communication. So there's disagreements, of course, in the meetings. However, the decisions that are made are in a way that, okay, there's this question that we need to follow. If if you disagree right now with something, would it be okay if we use this decision for now? How bad do you want this to change? Can it be that we can touch this topic in the future, and for now it's okay? You understand? So
yeah,
it's
I understand. Also,
and
are
then
there
we
checks and balances to individual power?
can you repeat that?
Are there in the system, does it naturally check and balance so that no one has too much power in the system?
Yes. Really, nobody has power. It's not possible because the rotation of facilitators is just keeps continuing. However, there's a lot of respect to people that have done a lot. Like there is a lot of respect for people that have show all this commitment and all accomplishments. So we get inspired by other people, and it's not that we put them, oh, they're the leaders, but we have a lot of respect for their opinions, and and so we like that. And there's not necessarily power. However, there are also respect for people that may not have a lot of decisions, but they don't like something or they don't agree with something. So we really want to understand why, and we go through the psychology of it and really take the time, right? To the point where, okay, if it's okay for now, maybe it doesn't satisfy you 100%, but if it's okay for now, then let's move forward. And then later we can revalue or reevaluate this again. And yeah,
Right. So people serve as teachers essentially. Anyone can teach another, but if someone's has more influence or is deemed to be wiser or what have you, then naturally people will ask to learn from them more. Is that what you're
exactly.
saying? Right.
Exactly. Hmm.
Okay. So does meditation play a vital role in this?
Definitely. Definitely. Even, let me tell you, sometimes in the meetings, it can get a little disturbance, right? A little
Yeah.
agitated because there's topics that are very deep. So then we ask somebody from the group to be volunteer and just lead a meditation moment, so we can all be okay, let's let this all go, let this all of these hard decisions just be peaceful. So we all close our eyes for a second, we start breathing, start meditating, and just really feel each other and bring back that love, bring back that community sense, that family sense. And then, okay, we go back to, okay, let's keep going with the meeting. And then each person, I invite everyone in the world to take the time to at least meditate 20 minutes a day, and in the morning or at night. It just helps clarify our mind, have that energy of peace and love in each other. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds pretty helpful. And like if that's practiced as part of what was taught or that people learn together with the system of sociocracy, I guess that would definitely enhance it because maybe that absence of that mindfulness and that spiritual awareness is what's lacking in other bottom up approaches that have been tried. I've got a question though. Do you think
Mhm.
it might help if people tried perhaps group meditation has already been tried, but group meditation, people consciously connecting their higher selves, or at least setting that intention and work and setting the intention that they'll work together with each other's spirit guides. And even if they're not really confident with it, maybe merely that intention will actually, I don't know, maybe that would be transformative somehow. What do you think?
Yes, definitely. Group meditations and really feeling peace inside of us, feeling what peace means and what love means, because we forget. And one other thing is so important: breathing, just breathing, deep breathing, feeling the air, feeling our body, and 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 just practice that every day and make it. It feeds us. It's just like eating our lunch. We need to sit down or lay down and breathe and really understand that piece. And we can do that as a group. We can do that in our personal life, and even in the car. In the car, you just. I have a friend that used to just take the time in the car to really have deep breathings while he's driving, and just breathe helps us really feel alive, and, and really just not forget to breathe, because we think we're breathing. Yeah, really settled breathing is not. It doesn't feed our whole body. It doesn't fill our brain. We need a lot of oxygen in our brain to have
Yeah.
clarity, and it's just a muscle there, and we need to breathe. That's it. Yeah.
We get so used to this shallow breathing. And like, even though I know that deep breathing's better, like a lot of the time I'm just shallow breathing. And then I'm like, wait, I could really benefit from,
Yeah.
really And I guess if you practice it enough, it becomes habitual, right?
Definitely.
You know, I heard there's have you heard of the Merkaba?
Yeah, the Merkaba, the geometry
Right.
is
It's
amazing.
so it's a the most basic form is like the Jewish symbol. It's like an upward triangle and a downward triangle over each other that form a star, right?
Mhm.
But in mysticism, it's like a three-sided pyramid up and down, and that it's like a spiritual soul vehicle or something. It allows us to like explore timelines or something spiritually. I'm
Mhm.
not going to go too much into detail here about it. Like, and honestly, there's people who know a lot more about it.
Mhm.
For example, Brian Scott, a YouTuber. But and yeah. So I don't know. I just putting that out there. Like,
Yeah.
if people were doing that together, like as a community, like I don't know, like, imagine a really spiritual community doing this stuff.
Mhm.
I just feel like this is perhaps a bit like some people say anarchism, or I don't know. But with this holistic, unifying feature and ethos, I feel like it's fundamentally different from politically divisive attempts that have been done previously, in my opinion.
Mhm. Yeah, like you mentioned, spirituality is inclusive rather than having different forms of religion. Spirituality is within us. It's always been, even if we're conscious about it or not. And it applies to every geometrical form. That's my form of view. All types of geometry, all types of non geometrical figures, but everything is just geometry. A tree is a geometrical figure. It doesn't seem like a line like we see other geometries, but they're all sacred.
Yeah,
Everything is sacred. Every space is sacred. The whole planet is sacred. We're not separated from spirituality. We practice spirituality sleeping, walking, running. Like it's there. It's just that we are not aware of it as if that it exists. And now that we take the time to connect with it, it's very important to sit down and understand ourselves, understand our body, understand our soul, and and work with it and live with it and appreciate it and act on it. So it's there. We can communicate in so many ways with our higher selves. It's a frequency. It's light, and so it's important for us to just be aware that it exists in every moment.
I have a
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
Will prana be a currency?
Prana. It's tricky because nowadays the word consciousness is being sold. The medi- the spiritual medicines are being sold and using capitalism, and it's supposed to just be free for all. So it's kind of like selling bottles of oxygen for us to breathe. So I don't agree with it. I can
Okay.
see that happening, but
I
yeah.
suppose maybe it depends whether it's voluntary exchange between individuals on one hand, or whether it's corporate control on the other hand. What do you
Can you
think?
repeat that?
On one hand, voluntary exchange or between people. You mentioned bartering, you mentioned
Hmm.
and the like, and you mentioned cryptocurrency, and just on a very emergent sort of like even like matchboxes or anything might be used as a currency in a very natural way, right? That on one hand, but on the other, corporations with the support of big states and like all that control, do you think there's a difference in, I suppose it's the difference between the market and capitalism?
Yeah, so in the current times, capitalism exists and it's needed. However, I would like us humans to evolve from that in a way that we don't even have to exchange things. We can use a gift economy, and that means that there's things that just are not supposed to be sold, but gifted in a way that, okay, I'm gonna help you move from your house to another house, and I bring my truck and I help you carry all this stuff, and I bring a couple of friends to do it too, and then charge you for it. It just takes away the understanding of being my brother, that being my friend. There's things that you're not supposed to charge or sell. It's there's a very important thing, a very sacred understanding of gifting, and that should be everything. For example, in a community of, let's say, 20 or 30, 40 families, one of them makes shoes, and I have shoes that are getting broken, and just by consciousness, by love, that person will gift me shoes with, before I even think about asking him shoes. You understand? So
Yeah.
everything that we need is like, okay, I love my brother so much, or my sister. I'm gonna gift her a guitar because I felt that she's been wanting to sing, and I think she needs that instrument. And I make guitars, and I, by consciousness, I will gift her a guitar, make her a
Okay,
guitar.
I think I understand. You're concerned about it being selfish and heartless, right? So I suppose the most important thing, as with a lot of what we're talking about today, is an open heart, right? And
Yeah,
I guess my view is that any form, any social or political system without love will essentially be fear-based and toxic. And any system with love will work. I truly believe that. So in a way, it doesn't really matter. You could say it doesn't really matter what approach we try to take as long as it's loving. Although in practice, if it's loving, that might lead it towards certain kinds of approaches and away from certain other sort of approaches. So perhaps I don't get the impression that advocates or you and other advocates of sociocracy would try to bar people from exchanges, even if you discourage uh, people profiting or trading necessarily. It's I get the impression that love comes first, and that I suppose I admit I do have an attachment to the market. I like the market. I used to be ideologically pro market to a very, and I and it is it's an interesting one for me when, because I really do see the virtues of what you're talking about. Like really, like sociocracy and permaculture, like really appealing. And I do see that in 5D, we may not will be voluntarily cooperating in such a way that we might not need to trade or exchange so much.
exactly.
But I don't see that we won't be doing it at all. Just that we'll only, perhaps it will be only as much as we need to, and it'll all be loving and voluntary. it won't be trying to take advantage of people.
Exactly.
It would only be trade will supplement
Right. So
exchange will supplement non-exchange. It will supplement and be an addition to the gift economy where it's not enough for people's preferences. But I don't foresee it being a problem as long as there's love. And the way things are going with this awakening, by the time it's over, we'll all be in unconditional love. I know that was long-winded, but do you agree?
yes, definitely. There's definitely ways to interact resources in communities. Like, okay, we don't have rice, and we can have a lovable agreement with our other neighbor communities that make rice, and then or plant rice, and then we can have that exchange with something that they might need that we have, and there's an exchange there in a way that, for example, they say have bananas, and the idea here is not to think about numbers in a way that, okay, you give me a pound of rice, I give you a pound of banana. No, in a way that actually we over deliver our interaction, and create that abundance.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Because it's not about
So
limitation, is it? We need to
exactly.
move past that. If we over deliver, we'll be all right. And in fact, karma, I mean, I'm not sure if there'll be karma in 5D, to be honest, but when you,
There's a balance. There's a natural balance that we don't have to worry about, because universe is so amazingly balanced, and not only balanced because if you're balanced you don't move, but in a way that there's abundance for everybody, and beyond. So we have to really open up that exists, and stop degenerating life. It's just like the plants and trees. If we observe, the trees over deliver fruit all the time, and over deliver seeds all the time. And what does a tree ask in return? Is just having that everything in the tree. It's feeding the tree, the sun, the wind, the animals, the bugs. Everything feeds the tree, and so every single element in nature also does that. Over delivers. Maybe they're conscious about it or not. What are we doing to participate it as humans in nature? How do we over deliver or even deliver anything to nature so we can keep that abundance happening?
so I suppose it will definitely be a post-scarcity economy and a post-scarcity society. And scarcity limitation, that's fundamentally 3D, third
So check
density.
it. A parenthesis here. Scarcity is good for capitalism.
Right. So, yes. And if we seek to do ways to experiment with ways of doing things with each other and developing communities where we act out of generosity and love and giving, and as long we can lead by example and lead us to build through action the foundations of new earth and
Mhm.
the society will have. So in every aspect of life, the question is, how can we do this in a more loving way?
Exactly.
And it doesn't need to be an argument politically or what have you about what the right way to do it is. And I feel like while I admire what some anarchists, let's say, have and some quote collectivists have tried to do in terms of their ideals, love hasn't always been there in an unconditional way. And what I really like about permaculture and sociocracy, at least how you present it, is, as far as I'm concerned, you might as well already be in 5D. You're doing it in a loving way. And I seek to draw upon those kind of ideas in terms of like how it will be in the future. Because if you visualize how it will be, that's a manifestation, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so I see myself 10 years ago, and I remember when I was practicing what I'm practicing now, and through time, I realized I'm living the future already. I'm surrounded by sociocracy and permaculture and communities and loving feelings. We created our own crypto coin in Ecuador. We're using 120 members are practicing our own economy. We're building our own eco village more and more. And here in Ecuador, here in Orlando, Florida, we're practicing it too. We're still, of course, using the capitalist system, but we're transforming that. We're transforming in a way that capitalism doesn't have to be degenerative, but regenerative. And
Ah,
you know,
regenerative capitalism, hey?
yeah. So finding ways how to transform the systems, not only by creating new systems that make the current one obsolete, but also transforming a little what's happening right now.
Rather
So
than destroying to
yeah,
rebuild, you transform. And that's key, right? Because
yeah,
otherwise you're just a destructive force and it's like anger and hate and like, yeah. And
yeah. So
what strikes me is this idea of you bring the future to the present because it's all one moment.
exactly, exactly. And then sometimes when I interact with a few people, sometimes even with my family, and I have conversations with them and kind of observe their lifestyle, and I see myself traveling to the past. Like, whoa, yeah, I remember this. Is I feel like this lifestyle is just from another time. It's like old schools, and I just don't want to be part of that anymore. And what can I do to help people live the future? Is it's the question, and yeah,
I'll tell you what I'm doing when it comes
yeah,
to, I suppose, the vegetarian question is that as people spiritually awaken, like based on our frequency, we ready when we're ready for something. I feel like it will be natural for us to do it, whereas as opposed to forcing ourselves or being ashamed that we're eating meat or something like. And so what I've started doing is because I know it probably lowers my frequency. I know that
you probably what?
eating meat probably does lower my frequency, and I do eat meat, but
Okay,
I eat less meat than I used to.
okay,
And I feel like I can gradually transition. And I feel like if you raise someone's awareness of simply that there's a more harmonious way to do it, and it's a transition. You don't need to do all or nothing. Even a small change is more harmonious and might raise your frequency. And people can pace themselves because awakening is a insofar as time is meaningful, it takes time. And
hmm,
when you educate people or help them educate themselves, you know, people can go at their own pace. And yet, if we do that enough, it can be hugely transformational.
Yes. And I want to add to that, and my case was immediate. I did it just like in the same week. I just stopped eating all types of animal products,
Okay.
and I did that because I felt that I have to learn how to cook plant based. And I was thinking, oh man, it's gonna take me so long to learn how to cook plant based before I stop eating animal products. So I forced myself stop eating and put myself in a position, okay, what am I gonna do? So that accelerated my process of really eating other types of food. And
Question: what was the emotion that the frequency, the emotional frequency in that decision?
at the beginning, I was mad at myself because I couldn't do it. It took me. I was thinking about it so long, and I wasn't gradually stop eating. Like every day I would eat something, but I was mad at myself because I couldn't control that, and then I just did it that time, and I just felt a lot better. I felt better with myself that I can accomplish something of that type of control because I've had a lot of addictions in my life, and stop eating meat was one of them. It's just I felt it was a part of an addiction that I couldn't control. So when I stopped doing it, I felt really great with myself because of that control of that addiction. But then with time, I felt the change in my body. I felt a lot lighter. My mind had a lot of clarity. Just start feeling a lot of different and creativity and all that. So what I'm saying here is that I did it myself, but it wasn't easy for sure. And I know some people take some time. However, there are ways to accelerate the process. If you really want to do it, you can accelerate. If you don't really want to do it, you take the time you need. 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. I've seen people taking so many years to transition. And so we need a coach. It's, for example, okay, you wanna have a big muscle body, you wanna work out on your own, or you want a coach that can really help you push yourself a little bit and just go beyond that limit that you have and you put yourself on. So you can get a coach, you can do it with a community, do it with your family, with your brothers, and really accelerate the process. If you really want to do it fast, if you just want to take the time, it's just more about being comfortable and getting out of the comfort zone, or just really finding ways. For example, another thing that helped me out is just watching a lot of documentaries and really understand more about that, and really then to the point when every time we eat something from animal, I will have that conscious in my mind. I was like, oh man, I can't believe I'm eating this, and then kept eating it, and it's just it wasn't making sense anymore. Yeah.
I suppose it is important to be consistent with your values.
Hmm.
Oh, what's the other question? Um, okay, so I noticed that is part of your focus on your food truck thing and serving people vegan food. Is it connected to the idea that a lot of people might decide to be vegetarian or vegan, but it takes effort and discipline to make sure you get the right nutrition? Because in a way, it is kind of easier to get protein, and when you there's certain vitamins and stuff that it's easier to get when you've got meat. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about that. At least what I mean is that you can get everything you need without eating any meat. It's just that like even when I looked at recipes, it takes more steps and more time to prepare it. And well, I suppose that's okay if you're committed to it. But I suppose helping people, maybe if people work together with doing it, then it's easier to get the right nutrition while while committing to a diet like that. What do you think?
Yeah. So Basically, what we need is to explore. I've been eating plant-based for last count by around 12 years, and I'm still living. I'm still healthy. I don't really get sick. I feel great. And the transition can shock you a little. So, for example, if you stop eating meat in the first week or so, even 3 weeks, you're gonna have a little strange feelings in your stomach. You might even you have diarrhea or something, and might be feeling weak even. And that process can get you scared and say, "Oh, what am I doing? Doing something wrong? I'm not gonna eat." And then you eat meat again. There's also examples of people becoming vegan, and then after a year or two, they start eating meat again because they find that it's better for their skin or something. There are different people that have different um, forms of bodies and immune system, and it just hits different for different people. However, we all have guts, and our DNA is really pretty much similar and it's the same for everybody. And what's important is to eat raw food, salads. Even if you eat meat, you need salads. You can't eat just meat. It's not healthy. You can't eat just meat and rice without salads. You need salads. We need fruits. We need seeds. If you take the meat out, it's great. You're gonna feel healthier because the digestion process of meat is it takes a long time. It's so much energy for our system to digest meat. And we're in other times now. Before, thousands of years ago, okay, eating meat is perfect because of the season. Maybe it's dry or maybe it's frozen, and depends where you are. So you go fish, you go hunt something, and you eat it, and you survive, and you're great. But we're in other times now, and it's an urgent need to make that effort. For example, if the government was to tell us apples are poison right now, they're not healthy, and there's this proof of being sick and all that, we stop eating meat. I mean, apple. We will stop eating apple, no problem. Okay, I really love apple, but I can live without apple. And I will do that effort and I'll do that sacrifice because apples are destroying the world. But it's not apple, it's meat. And basically, even though through times meat was a need for survival, we're in a time now that we can do an effort and sacrifice not eating meat because of all the exploitation that's occurring. Even if meat is healthy, the way we're eating is not regenerative, is not resilient. So
Yeah, even arable farming, like crops, the way it's done is, so much artificial fertilizer and it goes in the rivers, it kills animals. I would say, in my opinion, there's a deeper problem, and it's like a symptom. Not to denigrate your concern for animals, because and all that, because and health, like you're making good points. It's that for me, raising people raising their frequency, the awakening, and the spiritual side of things maybe comes first. And also, I suppose there's domination, control, and fear, and modes of civilization on living based upon that, which have been increasingly prevalent in, I'd say, for thousands of years. I mean, you could say since the fall of Atlantis, or maybe since the rise of this civilization, since Sumeria, whatever. Like, there've been increasingly, it's been about that sort of that very negative energy, and everything in society has been shaped by that. And now we're coming into a new age with new energy where it seems that we're moving towards a more loving way of doing things. And everything in society we can, as we awaken, we can apply that greater love to anything and everything and transform it into something more harmonious with nature and the universe. So I would say the spiritual awakening is the well, there's a spiritual awakening and then there's applying it in action. I suppose they come together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, different people have different ways of learning about our reality and the self,
Mm.
and different order. For me, I had an order. I started with love, and my first action was eating healthier, and then planting food, and then I go from there, and then permaculture and all this stuff. And for others are ayahuasca ceremonies first. For others are just family experiences where they learn about certain things and they start changing their life. And there's no order. There's no who's better and who's not. It's just it takes the time. It takes time for whoever is learning in their own pace. However, it depends on each and every one of us to really uh, go deeper and go do that effort and say, okay, I want to really have a big impact in the world, and what's in my access to do that big impact. What can I do now today that I can start changing, and that's important, even if it's spreading the word of what other people are doing, or just planting one plant. Like, we all eat fruits, we all get seeds from these fruits, so we just plant and see what happens without knowing anything. It doesn't matter. And it's great. It's just that it's just a decision from each and every one of us to really take that action. And those who we are already doing something, how can we help others to accelerate the process if they ask for it, not impose it, right?
Yeah.
Or how to be an example, and create these spaces that I was mentioned before, that we can be surrounded by this other type of culture. And yeah, so going back a little bit for before I forget, it was one thing that we get confused a little bit about. Okay, we need protein to be healthy. And if I don't eat meat, I get sick if I don't have my protein. It's it's not necessarily the protein that helps us be alive and strong. It's more about fiber. And I learned this from Dr. Michael Greger.
Okay.
He's an amazing guy. And fiber, what's fiber really is literally fiber in our bodies that holds the nutrients of the food. And our digestive system takes the nutrients from the fiber as it needs it. So if fiber can have amino acids that can convert it into proteins and every other nutrient. So that's important to keep in mind, that we might get confused that, okay, we need, oh, it's not protein, it's carbs. We need carbs. We need amino acids that convert into protein. We need carbs that convert into sugar. We need that. But the amount of it or the quality of it is what's important. And I can say, oh, I eat plant-based and I don't eat meat, but where am I getting the fruits from and where am I getting the veggies from? It's from a mass production and industrial production or I can say I plant-based, but I eat sausages that are plant-based. But how does that produce, and all that energy is that it involves to eat that? And so I'm playing the same game of exploitation and contamination by being plant-based. Of course, it reduces the amount of killings, but at the same time, I'm still participating in this exploiting system. And so that's a good observation that we need to keep in mind.
Yeah. And what you're suggesting and what you're enacting is participating in something new from the very foundations and the roots all the way up. So people growing their own food in the gardens, like, and doing everything, creating like a parallel to capitalism or whatever you call it, like a new way of doing things that is actually regenerative. It
Exactly.
regenerates the planet, Mother Earth, Gaia, what you call her, and us, and everyone and everything is regenerated through a process where we don't even need to tear down capitalism. We just need to just transform human society with love, I suppose, and just acting out our love in a wise way, because fundamentally it's carefully considered. And I'm sure there's other ways to optimize it. And it's people learning and educating each other on a voluntary basis about how to, how to do that. So, thank you a lot for your explanation. It's honestly, this discussion has really helped me clarify not just how it will be in 5D, but how we move there, how we transform this world now to that new earth, right? So
Exactly.
thanks a lot for coming onto my show.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for the invitation. I love the conversation. They're very deep, very important for even for myself to really reevaluate what I'm doing, and to be able to share it. Just I'm very grateful for that.
Okay. So and if you've listened to this, well, thanks a lot as well. I hope you found it stimulating and learned a lot from it. So all right, everyone.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And yeah, if you have any questions or any information to share, I'll be very grateful to listen. And thank you very much.
All right. Bye everyone.